It's the 17th episode of the WWJ Industry Connected Podcast, a monthly podcast devoted to the groundwater industry produced by the National Groundwater Association. I'm your host, Mike Price, and today we're joined by Esben Auken of TEMcompany. We discuss the company's geophysical scanner technology for groundwater mapping before drilling, its use in the United States, industry partnerships, and more. And we welcome to the podcast Esben Auken, CEO of TEMcompany in Denmark, our first international podcast guest. Welcome, Esben. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for inviting me here.
You bet. You bet. Please introduce yourself and your company that makes geophysical scanners to the audience.
So we are a smaller startup company, spin-out company from Aarhus University in Denmark, and we develop and we produce and we sell geoscanners. So instruments which will make images of the subsurface, and is used very much for groundwater mapping. So mapping of groundwater resources and the geological layers controlling the water resources.
You were at Groundwater Week 2024 in Las Vegas, and you've been to the show in previous years as well. So what were the contractors, their biggest reaction to your technology from the show?
There were many reactions, but in general, I think it was kind of a impression. So a lot of interest.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of interest.
That's great to hear. And the ease of use, like you say, I mean, drillers need to know what's underground, and to make their job any easier is welcome. So can you, explain how your product does work based on its ease of use?
Yeah, I can. And I will actually, maybe I can use an analogy first. So if you have an injury, if you break your arm, if you have an injury in your arm, then you get to hospital, and the first thing the doctors will do is not to pull out the knife and start cutting, right? Because if they do, then you better get out of there and find another doctor. The first thing they will do is to make an X-ray, so they can see what is the break, what happened, and by that they can then decide on what is the best treatment. How do we best handle this break of this injury? So they make a picture, and actually we are kind of doing the same. We are just making pictures of the subsurface. So we have it's a scanner technology where we energize the subsurface, and then we kind of inject an electric current into the geological layers, and then we can measure how the magnetic fields from those currents. It's a little bit complicated, but we can basically measure how the response is to what we inject, and then we can decide on what are the geological layers.
Okay.
We don't need to put steel stakes or anything into the ground. We just put a wire, and that wire can be, some systems use very small wires, 3 by 3 meters. So that would be 10 by 10 feet on the ground. Or if we need to go deeper, 300 meters depths, we put 40 by 40 meters. So that would be 120 feet by 120 feet. And then we'll go down 900 feet into the ground. And these are very light systems. A wire is maybe 10 kilos, and it takes 5 minutes to put it out, and then we put up the instruments, you measure, and you get the results right away.
Well, that's amazing.
So that's how it works, and then you make many of these measurements, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how it works. So we create these images, and then from that we can then get a very good idea about how is the geological layers, how are they connected. So where are the water bearing, where is the water in the subsurface, and we can estimate both the thickness of the water. Will normally be in sand layers, sand and gravel layers, right?
Right.
So we can say something about how thick are those layers, and when we make our measurements over in the fields, so maybe we cover larger areas, so many hectares. We can also get an idea of how big is the extent of these sand and gravel layers. And by that, when you then drill, we kind of get a good idea of how deep do we have to drill. But we also know that when we start pumping water up, we can be quite sure, or we can come with an estimate that we're not over pumping, so we're drying out the bathtub, you can say.
Yeah.
But that we can pump also in a year or in 2 years, because we know how big these sand and gravel layers are in the subsurface.
That's incredible, valuable information
Yeah,
to elicit.
yeah, yeah.
What was the depth you said you need to put the instrumentation into the ground? How deep do you have to?
Yeah, but no, we don't put it into the ground. We actually just put it on the ground surface.
On the surface? Okay.
Yeah, we put it on the ground surface. We also sometimes fly with it, because again, we don't need to get into the ground, so you can also fly with it. We have a system where we're dragging it behind an ATV, or you can walk with it, right? So you have these.
Okay.
When you're on the ATV, your coil, which is energizing the subsurface, is only 10 by 10 feet, so very small system. And you just drive with an ATV, and you get a measurement every maybe 30 feet on the ground, and then you get a nice 3D view or 2D view of how the sand and gravel layers are in the subsurface.
Okay. And
Yeah.
that the data, the visualization comes on an app. You see the results through an app system.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was, I mean, when we started the company, I mean, the company is only, in at least in this size, we're 30 people now, and we started 3 years ago. But one of the things, so I have a background as a professor at Aarhus University, where I've been teaching students geophysics and groundwater mapping and so on. And one of the things which was always, I think, when we were taking students out for field work, one of the big problems, or one of the, was that we would explain how the method works, and we would spend a lot of time on using the instruments. I mean, because microcontrollers and buttons we had to press, and on many of the instruments we can't even see the results. It's just say beep bleep, and we have done the measurement, and we have to offload it to a computer when we get home. And it's really detaching the students from what the target actually is. I mean, we want to teach them how to map groundwater resources, but we spend all the time on the instruments, and then after that we could spend all the time on the processing software in the computer, and very little time on what is actually, why are we doing this work, and what is the target of the course. And that was the driver behind, we want to make instruments which are easy to use, and we want to use modern technology. So we have been able, basically our instruments, it's just small boxes, and they are 5 kilos, so very lightweight. And there's just one button. It's an on-off. That's it. And then the rest is using a cell phone. And it also means that it's much cheaper to produce them, and they are more robust, because there's not all these buttons and stuff which can go wrong and break. So we have everything in an app. And now we have, very lately, and we're in the middle of rolling that out. So when you turn on the instrument and you press the measure button, you see the data coming in, and you see some statistics. But now it's also put in that to basically get the results, we are able to automate that whole process, which we would do in the computer before. That's also now done in the instruments, because in a modern computer, we got so much compute power, and we can use all that compute power. We also use AI in the data processing. So you don't need to know about data processing and data and stuff. You basically get the results right away. And it's fairly good. I mean, maybe if you could bring it to 100% perfect, be 100% perfect before, now you can maybe completely, without interacting, do it 90%, and that's fine. Most people are. It's more than enough. Yeah.
Wow.
So we're really trying to make it easy to use.
Excellent to hear. Yeah, can you fill us in on the application of it here in the United States? What
Yeah.
what what's been the response here in the United States with drillers using it?
I think it has been very positive, and I mean these methods are widely used. We have several of our most our premium system is called TEM. It stands for tow TEM. So that's the system we tow behind an ATV, and we have several of these systems running in California. And there are several based with companies especially in the Midwest, and they are used for mapping groundwater resources. They can look these 100 to 200 meters into the ground, so 300 to 600 feet into the ground, right from the surface actually. Um, and they are good in open fields. They are used very much for mapping of groundwater resources, but also for managed aquifer recharge, very much in California. Um, and actually, the whole Central Valley has been covered by a technology similar to ours, but from a helicopter. It's actually from a sister company, also located here in the same area as we are. They fly. It's called SkyTem. They fly with the helicopter. But now they're doing a lot of follow-up on the ground, and they are designing basins for for artificial recharge of stormwater and excess water, and they use these scannings of potential sites to to um, to give a picture of, can we actually infiltrate water here? Is it efficient? And that's basically by looking, do we have sandy sediments in the top so we can get some water down into the aquifers, or is it too much clay so it will take too long time for the water to infiltrate? And of course, that's information. I mean, land in California, it's extremely expensive, so you don't want to put a basin where you could actually grow crops and then you don't get water into the aquifers. This is what they did. It's used a lot for that in California. Yeah, and and then generally, basically mapping water or mapping aquifers prior to making boreholes yeah.
Right.
At the last conference, we we met people from or the owner from a company in Wisconsin called Bearcroft, well drilling company, and they actually they not too long time ago they acquired one of our systems, and and they are very excited, and they're getting ready to use it. We support them as much as we can, but they're very good people and they don't need much support actually, which is, but that also underlines, right, that we can actually have these extremely advanced machines and we can make them available so that they can get, and the focus, of course, on from their side, from Bearcroft company, water or well company, is not geophysics, right? It is to solve a problem, so they get a better, so they can make these scannings prior to put a borehole, and then they make the borehole and they have success. They get water. I mean, it's not the geophysics. So we are so thrilled about this collaboration with them. Um, and that's an example of what we got out of. I mean, that contact was made on the last conference in Las Vegas.
Well, based on Beecroft's uh, blueprint for the future with your technology, what do you see as the potential for others in the industry to use your technology like they are?
We are very excited about the Beecroft company, and we are very excited about what they're doing, and I hope, um, I mean, their success is our success. And I hope that once they get going on this and they show that they start to use it in their normal production, I hope that the neighbors, you can say so, will have a look at this and get interested and think, maybe this is not this is actually a really good idea, and we can optimize the success of our drilling operations and give a better product, and at hopefully also at a lower price, at lower cost to our customers. We also working with Grundfos. Grundfos is a I mean, all the installers knows Grundfos, I'm pretty sure.
Mm-hmm.
They have big plants in the US. It's actually a company based here in Denmark. That's where they're from, and they were actually the reason why we are here, because the foundation owing Grundfos invested in us and said, we think this is an interesting technology, so we will invest in the company. Now you have to grow it. And we are working also with the Grundfos company in the US. Um, and they actually also have a couple of systems that they because they want to work directly with the installers. I mean, they also work with distributors, but they also work directly. And they say, um, we think this can be of great value to our customers. It's not our core business, but it can be great value to the installers. So we see if we could convince the installers that this is an important technology, um, we see a big market, and we see a big market also for the installers, because they can deliver a better product, deliver successful boreholes, basically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very interesting to hear. Yeah, and cool to hear about the collaborative nature with Grundfos in your company. From the pumping side of things,
Yeah.
how your technology can help pump installers. Can you share a little bit more about that
Yeah.
from the pumping side of
Again,
things?
from the pumping side, is maybe it's more the, I mean, making these geophysical measurements or these images of the subsurface has a very low cost compared to what the cost is for making the borehole and the full build out of the borehole with screens and pipes and stuff. And then comes the pump. And when it really becoming expensive, right, is when you make the water infrastructure on top of it. So we are really in the very first part of this, and I think what it costs to make these images is negligible compared to all these subsequent steps in the value chain of putting in a new well. But again, as I said before, if we have a good image of the size of the aquifer. It's basically a risk mitigation. You can also think of it as a risk mitigation. I put a huge investment by having these small or these relatively inexpensive investigations first. Then I have a much better, my business case is much better, because I have mitigated the risk of making a very expensive installation of pumps and boreholes and infrastructure. And then I found out after some years that the aquifer is not big enough, or the water flow is not big enough, or the recharge is not big enough. So that's the business case. And this is also what Grundfos sees and what they want to give to their customers.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Well, like all good businesses, you offer customer care to post the sale after someone gets your technology. There's the customer service, and I've read and heard of the testimonials on your website speak highly of your customer care. So, lastly, can you share, yeah, what all entails after someone purchases your technology?
Yeah. After purchase, I mean, for some of the customers, they will ask for a course or training, and we do that. Then we send one of our geophysicists, experts in from the sales team. They will go to the customer, and then they will do the training. It's typically a 3-day training course. That's with the most advanced systems. But for the small, what we call AirStem, that's the smaller systems, it's not necessary. Um, what we offer is, I mean, people can come here. We are also happy to go to meet people and do training, but it's not necessary because it's so easy to use. And but then we have a lot of we offer with the sales that they can contact us. We will help them looking at the data. Sometimes we will also help them doing the first interpretations, and we have like a support package for that. And what we have seen is that many customers choose to have that little support package. It's not very expensive, but it's a formal thing on the quote, and they don't renew it. And we take that, and this is also what we hear from our customers. Then they get all the support from the beginning, and then they don't need us anymore. And this is our success if our customers doesn't need us. Of course, they have to use the equipment, otherwise it's not a success. But they all do. They all do. So yeah, so I think we have, and that was actually also when we formed the company and we start to build all the staff. We have been very focused on the after sales support, so that if also because it's new machines and there can be things which maybe could be laid out differently and stuff, and then it's good that we can help people right away, so they can move on with their project and their business.
Yeah.
So that's important for us.
Yeah.
And we want to keep a long-term relationship. We don't just want to lose them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, excellent. So for those who are listening or watching who are interested in learning more and potentially trying your technology, what should they do?
They should go to our homepage, and then hopefully they will get a lot of inspiration from our homepage from what can be done and how the machines looks like. And there are case studies. There published several case studies. There are case studies from the US on managed aquifer recharts, on deeper aquifers. There's also from other parts of the world. There's a lot of there are small movies or videos showing the technology and what it does. And then they should go in the contact formula and just write, "We would like to hear more." And then I promise there will be one of my very good people from the sales team will be there right away the day after. And often we will have a meeting on video. We have also have many customers actually, if they are in Europe, then they will stop by and we show them how we work and how the production is going on and stuff. That's one way. Otherwise, we are at conferences. The next conferences in the US will be again NGWA in
New Orleans.
New Orleans, Mississippi, New Orleans.
Yeah.
And we will be there. There's also another big conference in the same week. So we will be there 4 people, I think, because we will have to be on those conferences and come and talk to us.
Well, excellent.
So yeah. And then also there is actually one more. We just made a partnership with a company, EXI, which are located in Texas and has a couple of offices around in the northern states, and they are also good to talk to. They rent out systems, they sell them, and they also make courses and stuff. So there's lots of entrances here. And I know, and that's actually very important, because I know there's something with time zone and stuff. So going to an American company can also be maybe much easier.
What's the distributor's name again in Texas?
EXI.
EXI?
Yeah, EXI. They are based in Austin, Texas. And
Okay.
they are really good. I mean, they have really good people there. They know and can guide and stuff.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, Esben, thank you for your time today and the information you shared with your exciting technology. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for inviting me. This is such a great pleasure I hope you can share my excitement about this technology.
Thanks for watching and listening to the WWJ Industry Connected Podcast. We'll be back next month with a brand new episode, so be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast platform. We're on all the major platforms, so it will be easy to find us. And visit waterworldjournal.com for the latest expert columns, feature articles, videos, and news covering the groundwater industry. So one more time for Esben and I, thank you for watching and listening, and we'll see you next time.